All right, good morning, everybody. So I want to, interesting thing that came up, and I want to talk a little bit today about what exactly your partner's looking for when she says she wants your fierceness, and also why so many men have suppressed this gift and what you can do about it today. So I'm John Hall with Men Ignited. Sandy's not on today, but I wanted to talk to you guys because, and men and women, I'd love to hear, as I'm going along and talking about this, how this has impacted you as well. So I'd love to get your comments on this as we're going along. But I had a client the other day, and he was sharing a story, and he said, my wife keeps saying she wants the warrior. She wants the fierce warrior. She wants the ferocity, right? She wants me to come out, and he's like, but I don't want to go beat somebody up. Right, I think that's what she's looking for, is me to get all angry and puffed up and go beat someone up. And it's like, brother, that is not what she's looking for, right? But so many times we hear this. So many times we hear, our woman will say, well, I want to see your warrior. I want to see your fight. I want to see, whatever they're looking for, right? Or you're not strong enough to handle me, right? I mean, there's all sorts of things that can come out sometimes. And ultimately, they're looking for this fierce masculine leadership without maybe necessarily saying exactly that. So, men, I want to share with you today a couple of things that you can do immediately to shift this and be able to provide this fierce masculine leadership to her, to allow her to really open up to you, to feel safe around you, to feel led, to feel like you are being that warrior for her. And again, I assure you, it does not have anything to do with beating people up, right? So, fierce masculine leadership, what she's really looking for when you think about this is that I think there's three key things that it boils down to. And I'm going to break them down one at a time for you, right? So the first one that I really want to talk about is ownership. All right, and ownership is one of these things that I was talking to someone the other day, and he was like, "Well, I'm gonna talk to my wife about the plan and get her thoughts on the plan. What she thinks we should do and how she thinks things should go." And there's a subtle shift between sitting down and kind of laying everything on the table, but without any plans, and just like, well, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Right? And there's another shift that comes out when you say, this is what I'm thinking, and I would love to have your input. Your input's important to me, baby. I want to understand what you think about this. I want to understand how you feel about this. Because in one example, you're coming in and you're expecting her to build a whole plan with you, right? And in the second one, you're providing some structure for her that she can work against. All right, so a quick analogy to help you understand this. It is the difference between coming in like an Uber driver, and no disrespect meant at all to Uber drivers, but what happens with an Uber driver, right? Someone else picks up the phone, someone else picks the destination, someone else hits submit, and the Uber driver shows up at that location you said to arrive, and they pick you up and they take you to another location. And they may be incredibly pleasant. They're chatting with you. They're great conversationalists. Maybe they make you laugh. Maybe you just feel super safe and secure because their driving's wonderful. But at the end of the day, all they're doing is taking you from point A to point B. And there's another analogy you can use. All right. So the other example I want you to think of now is a charter captain. So you go and you get a charter captain for a boat because you want to go catch fish that day. And so you get a charter captain who knows the area. You show up at the docks. Think about this example, though. From the moment you step on that boat, actually from the moment that you book the charter, that charter captain is actually in command. Because what he's doing is he's telling you, here's what to expect. Here's what to prepare for. How does that sound to you? He's probably asking some input questions. What kind of fish are you looking to catch? Are you sensitive to being seasick or anything like that? Are you sensitive to sun? He's getting the input parameters, and then he's putting a plan together that's going to work for you. He's thought about the safety that's going to happen. He's thought about what happens if I go to a spot and I don't catch any fish, right? What's going to happen if the weather's rough, right? He's constantly going to be monitoring his clients. Are they having fun? Are they having a good time? Are they enjoying this? Getting their input, monitoring their reactions. But he's in command of that fishing trip. And so what happens? You relax, right? What happens? You relax into that fishing trip. You're focused on having fun. You're focused on catching fish. You're focused on having a great time. And you know that this captain has got your back, right? If there's bad weather, there's a plan for that, right? There's no fish at this site. All right, got a plan for this. Here's where we're going to go, right? And so he's adapting, he or she's adapting this plan, but it's allowing you to surrender into it. And so when you're coming in and you're talking to your partner about, maybe it's a big decision, maybe it's something as simple as the what's the plan going to be for date night, right? Or it might be something really big, like we're building a whole new house, or we gotta figure out something with our kids because our son is just really not doing well in school. So depending, for any of these magnitudes, how are you showing up as a man? Are you showing up as an Uber driver that you're expecting her to plug in the pickup point, the destination, and you're just going to route a path to get there? Or are you asking her input, what she's really looking for, putting your own thought into it, and then coming up with a plan that you're then sharing with her, getting her input to, getting her feelings with, and you're again, the difference is, are you showing up as an Uber driver? Or are you showing up as a charter captain? All right, so the second thing that, I'll share a story. I wrote this down. I wanted to share a story. A couple of the reasons I think why, as men, we don't always feel comfortable with being the charter captain is because we can think a lot of times, well, what happens if we go out and we don't catch any fish? What happens if we go out and the weather's rough and she gets seasick, right? It's going to be my fault. It's going to be on me that, that something came up and we had to change our plans, or this plan didn't work. And, look, this has happened to me too. We had early on when Sandy and I were dating, we had a practice date that we were assigned where I was in charge of everything from start to finish. And it was kind of very short notice. We're at a workshop and they're like, okay, here, you're in charge, go do it. And so I was kind of pulling this off by the seat of my pants. And was like, okay, well, we got to get here and get and all these things start stacking up and going wrong. The traffic wound up being horrible at that time of day. We only had an hour window, and the traffic wound up being horrible. And I'm watching the time, and it's taken like almost 20 minutes to get to where we want to go. And I'm like, well, we've got 20 minutes to find a place to eat. I got a place. I've been trying to communicate to get reservations on the way in. And the reservations weren't working out, right? So we couldn't get in. There's like an hour wait. And again, we've got an hour or 90 minutes or something for this whole thing. And I started to stress out and panic. I started to be like, oh my God, this thing's going to collapse. I could see her starting to withdraw. Sandy's like, she's not feeling safe and not thinking, right? Not thinking it was because of my actions, but thinking because things aren't going according to plan. And so it was probably one of the worst days we've ever had, and we laugh about it to this day. And afterwards, we were talking about it, and she was like, I just want to know that you had it. That even if things were going wrong, I wanted to know that you had it. That you weren't dropping it in my lap. That you were in command. That you were in charge of our dinner date. And I had made it overly complex. She had shared as well. She kind of threw out she said, well, what would have happened if we just had a picnic nearby, right? And so, again, it was this lesson for me. What I really took away from that is, it's not that things have to go perfectly on your dates. It's not that things have to go perfectly with your plan, but your willingness to take ownership of it. Your willingness to step up and be like, this is really the way that I feel we should go, and this is what we should do, has a huge impact on your partner's ability to just kind of relax and surrender into what you're doing and feel safe, feel that you've got it. All right, so the second thing that I think is really important is your clarity of purpose. How many times has this happened to you? Date night's coming up. It's date night a few hours beforehand, or maybe even a few minutes beforehand, and you're sitting down and you go, well, what do you want to do tonight? Right? What do you right? The night of, you're like, well, what do you think we should do? What would you like? Right? And here's the reality, man. If you don't have a plan in mind when you sit down to talk to her, and by the way, 5 minutes before date night, That's not planning. All right. So if you're sitting down, you're forcing your partner to go into her masculine to make the decisions, to make the plan, to come up with everything. And, this leads to us, instead of us being a warrior, instead of us being fierce, instead of us being where we are really out there providing this fierce leadership, what we come across as is the dreaded pleaser. All right, this is the guy that is just like, oh, whatever you want. I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be happy. Whatever you want, we'll do whatever you want. And what happens is that two things, right? You're forcing her into her masculine. And if you're looking for a great date, you don't want to both be in your masculine, right? And you don't want to be opposite your natural polarity, right? You want to be in your masculine, allowing her to be in her feminine and be that flowing, beautiful energy that just lights us up, that we love so much. And so if you don't have a direction in mind, if you don't know where you're going, you're forcing it on her, right? And a lot of times, guys, we'll do this because we'll think, well, she's going to reject my idea, so I'm going to ask you, where else does that show up in your life, right? If you're so afraid that on a date night, the plan you come up with, and maybe you kind of, either you surprised her or you ran it by her and said, this, I'm thinking this or this, and kind of seeing how she reacts to it. So you're taking her considerations in mind. But if you're afraid to pitch an idea because you're afraid that she might reject your date night idea, brother, where else does this show up in your life? Is this showing up in business and you're afraid to pitch that idea that might make the big breakthrough because you're afraid you might get rejected? Is this showing up in your parenting skills, right? Because you're afraid to put out what you think the plan is that's best for your kids because you might be rejected, right? Where is this keeping you from your purpose and really your bigger mission in life? So you see, when we show up as the dreaded pleaser that doesn't have a direction and we're relying on her to provide that sense of direction for us, right? We aren't showing up with any clarity in our life. And not only that, we're building in a practice of being afraid of rejection that is going to impact us elsewhere in really being better for the world. So look, giving her everything she wants will not make her happy. Trust me, been there, done that, learned that lesson, okay? So her knowing that she can fully trust and surrender to you will make her happy. And that's only going to happen if you have a destination and a plan in mind, right? Imagine, going back to that boat example, imagine that charter captain didn't have a plan in mind. And you're getting on the boat and all you're doing is he's just kind of shifting his idea and looking at you. Well, maybe they want less sun. Maybe they want more sun. Maybe they want this fish. Maybe they want that fish, right? Maybe they want to go see the storm up close. Imagine what a miserable boat charter that would be if your captain didn't have a plan in mind. And men, we're making our women go through that same misery when we show up without a plan. When we show up without clarity of purpose in our life, not just for date night, but across the board. All right, the final thing that, again, I believe leads to this fierce masculine leadership, leads to your partner feeling safe, feeling like she can trust you, feeling like she can really surrender to you and just lean into you and know you'll be there. That third point, I think, is whether you choose to respond or react. There's a quote I absolutely love by Viktor Frankl. I'm going to read it to make sure I get it right. But between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So look, your woman is going to see fierceness when you aren't reacting to everything she does. All right, now there's a difference between awareness and reaction. This is not, brothers, this is not putting blinders on, right? And no matter what she says or no matter what she does, I'm ignoring her and I'm moving forward. That's our toxic masculine, right? That's actually abusive when we're just like, no, we're going to do this no matter what, right? This is going to happen. I don't care what you think. That's toxic. But what I'm talking about is having that sensitivity Now, when something comes up, you're gauging her reaction, right? But then you're making a decision as a response versus a knee-jerk reaction, right? Imagine, for example, I'm going back to that boat because this is such, I love analogies. Hope y'all do too, right? So when you go back to that charter captain, right, all of a sudden he sees a storm starting to come up and he panics, right? Because the storm's coming. How safe is that going to make you feel? Like this captain doesn't have a plan, right? This captain doesn't have a plan. And we're now in danger because the storm's coming and they're panicking like they've never seen a storm on the water before. Right? Your safety's just going to like plummet. So when you respond, and look, this is the nonverbal clues as well as the verbal clues. This includes your body language. This includes your breath. You know, did something happen and you just stopped breathing? And look, I love it. Sandy will come out sometimes for our date. Well, sometimes she'll just come out for the morning and she'll just look so amazing and so beautiful that it will take my breath away. It'll literally take my breath away. Like stop breathing because, oh my God, I can't, I'm so lucky to be married to this woman. Like it's such a blessing to have her as my wife. And that's a good one. That's a good take your breath away. But when she's unhappy, when something comes up and she's reacting to something that's happening that night and you stop breathing and collapse, it's not a good kind of take your breath away. All right. Because what's going to happen is you suddenly become the deer caught in the headlights. Right. So what's important here is even when the unexpected happens, you keep command. Right. Monitor, you're aware of her feelings, you're aware of her reaction. Maybe there's some reassurance there, but reassuring her to let her know you've got a plan. This is what we're going to do. I may adjust it a little bit. Storm came up. All right, don't worry, we got a plan. I'm going to go back to these, inshore. We're going to head off. We're not going to go offshore anymore. We're going to head inshore. We're going to do our fishing there. And I'm hoping y'all are getting these fishing analogies because I'm using them pretty heavily today. But, you staying in command is going to allow her to feel safe. And when she feels safe, when she feels seen, when she feels that she's understood, her heart's going to open up to you guys. And she's going to love the fierce masculine leadership that you are showing to her. All right. So, in summary, ownership, right? You're the charter captain, not the Uber driver. Clarity of purpose. You've got a plan in mind, and you know where you're going to go, right? And respond versus react with that, again, that mix of awareness, that open heart. You're being sensitive. You're understanding what's coming in, but you aren't changing your direction every single time that something comes up. All right. And men, if you got something from this, or ladies, if you know a man that you think could benefit from this, forward this video to a man that you think could benefit from this. Just to say, hey, thought you might like this. Just drop, Sandy calls it dropping the handkerchief. Just, hey, thought you might like this, thought you might get something from this. And men, if you're listening to this, right, there's a link right there. You can go to menignited.com. That's the online community for Men Ignited. It's a community service that I provide. I go on there and I provide weekly live trainings. We have posts. We have support of the other brothers. You can open up, pitch questions out there. You're looking for support. This is the place you're going to get it with other men, like high achieving men that are like you, that are looking to become better in all areas of their life. And there's 3 simple questions that you'll answer when you sign up. I'll give you a free gift as well. You'll get my ebook, 7 Reasons Why Your Woman and Your Team Probably Doesn't Trust You, right? So menignited.com. If you're a guy, just go there, menignited.com, plug that in, and join today. And ladies, if you're listening and you think, hey, there's someone, my brother, maybe my partner, maybe, I've got an uncle, I've got a relative, I've got a friend that I think could really benefit from this, just forward the video. Hey, thought you might like this, right? Just drop it out there, let it be. And, again, men, it's open. Let's make a change. Let's step into this gift of fierce masculine leadership that we have, and we can share that will just light our women up in our life. All right. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.